Day one of an illegitimate government in the nation of Zimbabwe. We no longer have an executive, we don't have a parliament, we don't have a judiciary, because the basic or the basis or the foundations that build those institutions has been destroyed by one signature that has been put on a proposed amendment that was championed by ZANU-PF and its government. As I promised in a previous video, this video I'm stitching someone who has explained in detail what this means and how they've done it and what we need to do, or the position that we need to claim for us to fight against this. Listen in. It's a long video, but pay attention. It is very fundamental.
First correction, Angus. The doctrine that is being broken is called the basic structure doctrine. It is the most important doctrine in any constitution, more important than any other doctrine. That's the doctrine that is being broken. It is a power doctrine. It is the basic structure doctrine developed in India in the 1960s. That's the doctrine that is being broken here. So the doctrine itself creates the power of the Constitution. Yeah. What is the power of the Constitution? It is the voice of the people establishing institutions and basic structure of any country. Yeah. If we're going to, I'm going to try and explain it in what is that called? In ghetto talk. Yeah. In company talk. So it goes like this. If the word of God is the word of the people, this is where you get the concept. The voice of the people is the voice of God. Yeah? So how constitutions are established go like this. Human beings gather with individual rights, natural rights. As they gather with natural rights, each and everyone has the power to judge upon their own established territory. Take it from, let's say, Darwin theory. We all were created. You can mix the Bible in there. We all were created. As we are created, we all are individual people living in a space of land as individual people. As we gather and start to concentrate from one, let's say Uncle Jade is there by himself, Titus is there, Zet is there, and everyone else is there. As Uncle Jade meets Auntie Jenny, Auntie Jenny comes with her natural rights, Uncle Jade comes with his natural rights. They gather together, they form a union. That becomes what you call a family. They have their set rules, their territory that they protect. They judge upon invaders, and Uncle Jade turns around and puts punishment on whoever comes into to his territory. Same as Titus, same as everyone else. As the nucleus grows, it moves from an individual to a family to a clan to a tribe to a, you understand what I'm saying? it grows, yeah, all the way, let's say, to a very large group of people. This is before a nation is formed. As we do that, we still have the natural rights. We judge upon ourselves. But that creates confusion, because Uncle Jade will have his own rules that we have to abide by. Titus will have his own, that we have his own with his group of people, and everyone will have their own. So we end up with so many different rules. So what we did as human beings is then we came together and we took our individual natural rights and we released them to the collective right. Yeah, the power. And we said now that we are going to establish this thing that is called the Constitution. This is why it's supreme than any other law, whereby each person contributes or releases their own individual rights into the pot. So puts their own individual rights into the pot. That is called the Constitution before it's called the Constitution. As we do that, we start to establish institutions. Before Uncle Jade would sit and become police to his little territory, a judiciary to his little territory, and all these other things. And collectively, we start to establish these things. This is why the voice of the people becomes the voice of God. We start to establish institutions. As we are establishing institutions, what we say with our mouth is materialized. Yeah, like God speaks, let it be light, and light is there. With us, we say, let us have government. And as government, we require 3 arms of government: executive, judiciary, legislature. And that is established. And as individual people, we start to feed into those entities. This is why the Constitution turns around and says, the previous one before this amendment is put in, that the power of the president is derived from the people. The power of the judiciary is derived from the people. What are they establishing? They are acknowledging the birth of an entity that is God. Yeah, that is the people. So that means everything comes underneath, is born from this thing that they've contributed their own individual natural rights to create this thing that now they are going to turn around and abide by. This is why a single policeman with the authority of the police service can stop a bus full of 100 people, because the 100 people have agreed that rather than being police themselves, they have acknowledged to establish this entity, and then this entity now can come in wearing the uniform, an individual person, and stop a bus and tell the people in the bus to come off, and the people in the bus can come off, acknowledging the authority that they gave this thing that Titus now wears a uniform and is able to give authority. And then it creates order. Now, Section 328 establishes basic structure by doing what? By pointing out that the Constitution itself can be amended. This is what the people have said. can be amended by the parliament and the House of Senate in combination with the president. So you can amend the Constitution of Zimbabwe through that process. We have said that as people. And then we have turned around and said something very special that we have to acknowledge. I think that's where we miss every single time to understand. We have 3 sections of the Constitution that are very unique, whereby they could not be amended in that process alone, whereby the cabinet will put a bill on, the parliament would put the 90 days consultation, the parliament would therefore debate the bill, the parliament would therefore vote on the bill, and if the bill passes, the president assigns it, and that's it. Yeah, that's one part of the Constitution, and that one part of the Constitution is over 98% of the whole Constitution. There are 3 parts of the Constitution where that process does not exist. That is found in Section 328. Section 328 tells you and every Zimbabwean on how to amend the Constitution of Zimbabwe according to the Zimbabwean people. The 3 parts, so I've described the first part where you can amend over 90-something% of the Constitution through the basic part. And then there's a second part that is harder. Yeah, we make it harder for who? We have to understand that for who? For the parliament and the president to amend the Constitution. Yeah. So the first part, the only hard bit becomes when you're comparing the amendment of an act to the amendment of the Constitution. The Constitution then requires 2/3 amendment. That's the hard part on level 1 that I talked about. That is basic. Level 2 becomes a little bit harder because level 2 deals now with chapter 4, that is our rights of the Zimbabwean people, and land. What do we say to that according to our Constitution? We said that this one you can amend using the basic method. That means bill, consultation, parliamentary debates, 2/3 majority. And we added another lock. We have to understand the locks so we can understand the importance. Same as you do when you are safeguarding important things in your house. You can put things in the drawer. Some other important things, you put them in a safe. The basic constitutional amendment of the 90-something% is in the drawer. And then there is a safe. That means now we have to put something in and lock it more than anything else. That is section 4 or chapter 4 and so that's chapter 4 and chapter 16. And the lock is this. Yes. The lock is this. The lock is you go through the process. When you go through the process, you've got 2/3 voting a lock, that is the draw. But there is a safe, and the safe becomes a referendum. Now, that is very important to understand, because it is the only time whereby there is a superstructure that is awakened outside, or that you don't normally see when you're dealing with the other parts of the Constitution, because you're dealing with your representatives who come and represent you. But when you're touching chapter 4, that is the human rights and the land where people are sitting on, we have said that you cannot turn around and touch those things without us, or without, you can touch them, but you have to come to us as the people of Zimbabwe for us to vote on it, creating a bigger structure outside of parliament that will take a decision of parliament and either reject it or accept it. That is ratification. So what does that mean? That means if parliament in any other way would have convinced themselves that they want to touch any part of chapter 4 or any part of chapter 16, and they vote amongst themselves, as crooked as they are, and say, yes, we can touch and change here and change here, that cannot become law until it is taken to the referendum. And when it's taken to the referendum, you create another superstructure now that is important, that overrides parliament for the first time in any activity, whereby the parliament would have said, yes, we're touching it, and the people come in and say, no, you cannot touch it, and parliament cannot do anything about it. What does that mean? We have to understand, this is why basic structure is very important. It establishes who gave birth to who. It's a power a level. In basic understanding, in component understanding, this is why I always say that I try and explain it before, whereby Uncle Jade is older than Titus, yeah, by years. Yet Titus, as young as he is Uncle Jade's uncle. And Uncle Jade cannot get married without Titus say so, because Titus is Uncle Jade's a mother's younger brother. Yeah. Now we're going on power. So we do that as people. In Constitution, we do that as well, whereby we establish power. That is chapter 4 and chapter 16. And in the same, so that turns around and creates a lock. That turns around and creates two locks. 2/3 majority, one lock. Referendum, within 3 months, two locks. Makes it harder. That is chapter 16 and chapter 4. We move on to say that you have to take something called term limitation provision and look at it as if it is in chapter 4. Term limit provision becomes a provision of an extension. Our Constitution explains it very well, of any lengthening of time of any office person sitting. Yeah. So you have to look at now the extension of time of any person sitting in office. You have to look at it like it's chapter 4, meaning now it has a lock again. Yeah. It does not stay in the drawer. That it can be touched by anyone, or it can be touched by parliament alone. The power of parliament is not enough.
Right.
So I'll finish up to this. It's not enough. Because this thing does not live in the drawer. It lives in the safe, whereby there is a code that you have to turn around and enter, and the codes are only known by the people. They are not codes that can be punched in by parliament. The drawer can be opened by parliament, but the safe cannot be opened by parliament. Can only be opened by the people. You require the people to open that thing for it to be changed. But the term limit provision has more locks than any other thing in the whole Constitution, more than chapter 4 and chapter 16. And I'll show you the locks. So it moves to say, if you want to change in the Constitution a term limit provision of a president, of parliament, of local councillors, yeah, you have to go through cabinet putting in and this is where the process is supposed to be very respected and understood. You put a bill in, a bill goes through 90 days. 90 days goes through parliament, upper house and lower house discussions. And then it is passed by referendum. But we put another lock to say that if you go through that, understandable. But you, as the sitting people, cannot enjoy that extension. You cannot enjoy it. If you want to enjoy it, you have to create two bills. One to extend, and then it is a referendum. Yeah? Two locks, like the chapter 4 and chapter 16. It has two locks. And then if you want to enjoy it yourself, you the incumbents, you have to create another bill that will go through the process of two locks and the referendum, making that whole process 4 locks. What does it mean? It means that this thing called a term limit provision has a safe inside another safe, inside another safe, and inside another safe, that only the citizens of Zimbabwe have the ability to unlock for you to touch it. Yeah? Yes, I said I'll give you a component understanding of something very complex. That will give you the importance of this thing called the people of Zimbabwe. It establishes that I gave birth to you. You work for me, and you cannot change the contract I wrote for you that you signed under without my say-so.
Right.
Because I employed you. I created the job that you sit on. I created the length of time that you're going to be in that job, and you cannot change it without me changing it. I have the law. That establishes now the basic structure of the whole Constitution. The moment, this is why now we say, notwithstanding any other law, yeah, on the term limit provision. Now here is what ZANU did. That is so illegal. You cannot, in the Constitution of Zimbabwe, bypass a notwithstanding clause by a notwithstanding clause.
Right.
Because for you to change that thing, you are bound by the notwithstanding clause. How did you change it? Because the notwithstanding clause forces you that you can't change it. You can't. Notwithstanding clause says that you can't go to the safe. But now you're changing it, and when you are changing it and extending a term limit, you have turned around and created a notwithstanding, so that in the future you are able to go to the It does not make sense.
Mm.
It only makes sense because you know that what you did is touching basic structure. And by touching basic structure, you have destroyed the whole constitution. The whole constitution is gone. Because the power of the people to write the contract, to establish the job, to create the job, to create the institution, you have taken that power away from the people. Now you are able, as a person who's being employed in the beginning under the Constitution of Zimbabwe for 5 years, you are able now to continuously extend your own stay in the job without the people that employed you say so.
Right.
So this is why we say that the thing that is being touched or that has been broken here is basic structure. And that is the most important thing that we should turn around and hold upon.
Right.
The other ones come after to balance basic structure.
Mm.
You see, and that's the ground that we fight on. That's the ground that we should not move on. And anyone from today onwards that enjoys this law today has become
Right.
illegally in Zimbabwe. Anyone, parliamentarian, president of Zimbabwe, a councillor, whether he's in the opposition or is in the ruling party, has turned around and taken a contract of the people, and they've just turned around and are enjoying the illegality, whether it is done by one person or whether it's done by 30 people or it's done by all of them. Their
Right.
enjoyment from today onwards is illegal. We do not have councillors today. We do not have MPs today. We do not have a president today. And if the courts sit down quietly, we do not have judiciary today. We do not have judiciary today because everyone, when they get into those jobs, are bound to uphold the Constitution of Zimbabwe according to what was written when they signed into that job. And the Constitution of Zimbabwe said, abide by, uphold the Constitution of Zimbabwe. And you only uphold it when you hold basic structure. And basic structure says our powers are derived from the people. They say that themselves. The oath that they take, all of them, acknowledge that their powers are born from the people.
Right.
So they cannot today, uncles, if God created the people today cannot create God.
Right, I hear you.
Unless,
right, I hear you.
Unless they have turned around and broken into heaven.
And they've created another God that
and they've created themselves as God.
Right.
And they cannot give birth to themselves.
Right, okay. Thank you very much. I do appreciate it. Right. My sister Ruth, you want to come in?